So yes, as discussed, so we are live with Arunaraje Patil. So before we jumping into the main discussion, I am just telling us a little bit brief about who is Arunaraje ma'am. So why I'm telling that ma'am, because I am also a FTII online, I mean the film appreciation pass out guy from 2020 in the first virtual batch, and ma'am is one of our, I mean there is a head of this course. And not only that, she had received many awards, I mean the, like national film awards, along with the first lady awards from the Indian president. And after that, she will be a jury in filmfare and national film awards and screen awards in many things. So and most of the things she is actually joined with FTII and in, conducting course. And not only FTII, she recently established a film school which is Shift Focus, which is entirely dedicated to the knowledge sharing and the knowledge perspective. So welcome to Ritu Rangam Film Festival and Lab 2021. I know it's kind of a hectic schedule, so we actually fixed the meeting. So before the jumping, so my first question, I mean, from all the lab participants, that what is the connection? I mean, and sorry, there's another thing is Arunaraje Patil is the first lady, I mean, the first female film technician who passed in India from FTII. So it's a huge applause from all of us. So I mean, before that, I just want, we are all actually curious that on that time when you just passed out from FTII, on that time, so you were a first lady that you were, conducting passed out from the court. So what was the procedure on that time in so-called Bollywood, or you called it as a Indian film industry?
Yes, I actually started from regional, to be very honest. As soon as I passed out, we got an offer to edit a Kannada film, which was Girish Karanth and B.V. Karnad's Kannada film. We did that, and then we're back in Bombay. It was called Bombay then, and we started making films. Of course, we started with advertising films and documentaries, and then 3-4 years later, we started our feature film. But the thing is, wherever I went, they used to look at me, ladki hai, as if I'm some animal in the zoo or something. Where people would actually open, whether it's in the lab or in the studio, they'll come peep and they'll whisper, they'll stare at me and go away. So even when I went for documentaries and all, people would stop the work and look and, say, ladki hai. So that was very different about 50 odd years ago, actually. So now I can call myself ancient because I'm already there for 52 years. But
uh,
I think they thought that girls can't do all this, It was really, they believed that. And in fact, I must share a very interesting story with you. In my first press conference of my feature film, Shaque, which I did with my husband, one of the journalists asked me, they've come to my press conference, they're seeing my film, and they're asking me, do you expect us to believe that Vinod Khanna, the star, listened to a chit of a girl like you?
OMG.
How dare, It's like, and I was like a very spunky girl. I said, ask Vinod Khanna whether they listen to me or not. So, it was like that. They thought, this girl, what can she do? But my experience also on the court, first of all, they were saying, filmmaking ko sikha nahi ja sakta. You can't teach filmmaking, you know. So how can you go to some institute, learn and come? So that was the first attitude. And then on top of it, there's a girl. So there's a double problem. So they would not like to listen to anything I said. So as it is, men don't like to take orders from women. So here's a girl, a very sprightly young girl, and giving you orders meaning telling you what to do,
What to do?
anything. And but I had to work, I don't know how many thousand times more than my husband to prove that I knew my job. But once they realized this girl knows her job, they were actually following everything, and they would do any kind of a shot with the kuch bhi karo, they would do it. But until then, I had to prove over and over again that yes, I know my job, I'm a trained technician.
So right now, so you just directed the Firebrand, and it was produced by Priyanka Chopra and is streaming in Netflix. So right now, what you thinking? I mean, 50 years ago, what is the situation in Bollywood, so-called Bollywood industry, and right now, what is the Bollywood industry except women filmmakers? Right
Well,
now.
there are a lot of women filmmakers now. When I got out of the institute, that was in 69, we started teaching right from then because we love teaching, and we would go back and started at the institute first, teaching whatever we had learned, so to say. And over time, we realized that that many of my students were girl students, but they would not choose feature films at all. They would either go into advertising, which is quick work, or documentary, which is kind of safe. That's what it made believe, and even television, but not feature film. Feature film was supposed to be a long haul, and feature film had a reputation. It was dangerous. It was not safe for a girl like that. But then later on, in I think about 10, 12 years down the line, more girls started assisting and then becoming feature filmmakers. Some preferred to do what we call the indie film kind of film, which is different. And there were other people who did the typical Bollywood masala. When I started out, there was nothing called Bollywood. It was the Hindi cinema, and
Yes.
I definitely prefer that name, Hindi cinema. But Bollywood became about the commercial film industry, the kind of formula making industry, and now it has come to stay, unfortunately. But that's how it was.
So, ma'am, jumping into the main discussion of the, I mean, lab. So, first question is, as a director, how you deal with, I mean, the editors? Because sometimes we can see that editor and director is the same guy. So sometimes there is some, what I can say is a conflict of interest. Because when we can see that editors are arguing with directors are arguing with editors, and most of the final products will be the best part. But when as a director and producer, I mean director and the editor will be the same guy, then what are the problems and what are the benefits they can give?
Yes. I think I was very lucky that I did editing first. When I went to the institute, initially I'd gone for acting because I used to get a lot of acting offers. But then,
Okay.
I messed up my audition. Actually, I'd gone late. I was a medical student, first of all,
Oh, wow.
because
Yes.
girls from good families didn't go into movies. So I was doing my medicine, and though I was a topper, I failed in my anatomy. And that was like a wake up call. How can Aruna fail at all? It was like that. But then anatomy was, you won't believe it, Diganta. You would go into that hall early in the first thing in the morning. There's a big hall with lots of tables, and there are dead bodies on that. And you have to go and dissect them. I mean, this was goddamn awesome. I mean, awful. I mean, really, it was horrible. So, what I did, I couldn't deal with that anatomy part of it, the practical side of it. And of course, I failed. And then I've had to appear again and all. But apart from that, my mother realized that this girl is not happy and she needs to do something else. So, she is the one who took me out of there and put me in the Film Institute. And people said, Mrs. Patil, you're ruining your daughter's brilliant career. She would have been such a great doctor. She said, no, my daughter is not frivolous. I want her to be happy. My mother was a very dynamic person. So that's how I got my start. Now, coming to what you said, so you see, then they asked me, if not acting, then what do you want to do? I said, direction. But then they said, but for direction, you need to be a graduate, a BA or a BSc. So they said, we'll give you a double diploma instead of 5 years, we'll give you a combined editing direction in 4 years. So why don't you do that? I didn't know what editing was. I said, editing, I don't know what it is. I went off. And they kept calling me back. They said, Aa jao, aa. They thought this girl is very bright. Usko kuch karna chahiye. So they kept calling me back. End of first term, 1 month before the term ended, I joined. And I was very good because I used to do a lot of jigsaw puzzles, Mensa puzzles, all kinds of now Sudoku and all this. So my mind works like that. So I'd quickly do my editing work, practicals, go and sit in the direction class. And because there were not many girls at that time, so I was very welcome in every department. They used to love to see me. I'd happily go and sit anywhere, learn as much as I could. Like a sponge, I used to absorb everything because I wanted to. Anyway, coming to wearing the two hats, now I did my editing first. So I could actually be, because you have to be ruthless. A direction can be, a director can be sentimental, can get attached, but an editor cannot get attached to the material. You have to be very objective also. You're seeing something and you have to be able to judge that. Now, when I'm editing, I used to edit for other directors like Shekhar Kapoor and T.S. Ranga and many other directors. I would wear the editor's hat and no director coming in that time. So I would tell them, you tell me what you want, but don't tell me how to do it. I'm the expert, I'll do it. But you tell me what you want. And then, of course, mostly there wouldn't be problems. So I tell them, I think this is missing. Will you go and shoot something and bring it back? So a couple of directors actually went and shot something and brought it back. So that was very good because we could give shape to the film.
Yes.
But when I'm myself editor and director, So often, because editor is more prominent in a way, I tell myself I've thrown away my favorite scenes sometimes in my own films. And I said, chal jaane dena. What are you hanging on to it? Khud ko bolti hu. Then I have to leave it. Because editor is saying that this is not working. It is slowing down the pace. Or it is redundant. Kam ka aise indulgence hai. Chhod do. So that's how I think training in editing first made me very acute and aware. Also, working with other directors and looking at material objectively, I could look at my own material more objectively, I think.
uh,
But we used to have fights, for one frame, 1/24th of a second, editing room में झगड़े होते थे. वो तो अभी भी हो सकता है.
So, just on that time, I mean, I'm just telling when we just passed out as an editor and a director after that. So, on that time, which I mean, right now is I mean, there are numerous softwares like FCP and Premiere Pro. But on that time, I think I was first introduced as a analog. This is a moviola. But right now, I mean, before that, I think you passed it before that. So, on that time, which I mean, in which machine you were working as an editor?
See, first we had a moviola, and we had just one Steinbeck in the institute,
Okay.
and many small moviolas with that small screen and the big screen. So there were two kinds of moviolas. So we were comfortable with everything. And when I came out of the institute, actually we were working in different studios, and there were a few moviolas and Steinbecks. But when my marriage broke up, the first thing I did was to go and buy a Steinbeck. I imported a Steinbeck and set up my own editing studio, and it was a beautiful, machine. I love the Steinbeck, and working on it is so great. Handling the film, looking at
Yes,
it,
yes.
touching it. It's a very different experience.
So it's a 35 mm, right? I mean the 35 mm or the
Yes,
16 mm?
35 mm.
35 mm. So this is a golden age. Some people say there's a all golden age. So right now I mean our second question is I mean you are as a director and the editor too, but I mean on a what I can say on a screenplay perspective, like as a screenplay writer there's some different thought process, right? The editor and the director has. So you are also in a film, you are a screenplay, you wrote some screenplays. So on the time how you deal with it as a screenplay writer, you have to fight with as a director perspective and the editor perspective. What is this thing process?
For me, to be very honest, it's one process, according to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Because when I'm writing my screenplay, I'm already looking at it as a final product. So it comes very easily. I mean, for me, I think it is one process. It's a complicated process, and people have different skills, so they've divided it into three parts. See, because what a director needs to is also, apart from his visualization, and he must be a people skills he must have to be able to. He needs to know a lot about camera, he needs to know a lot about sound, he needs to know a lot about music, he needs to know a lot about acting. I mean, he's also not just managing people, but he's actually getting the best out of everyone. So you must know a little bit of all those things to be a good director, I believe. You have that, but you're actually taking the story forward. But even everything you do, eventually it's just raw material for an editor. So then the film actually, according to me, gets made on the editing table. So if you're actually looking at the script, what will it look like when it's done? Then I think it's a very easy process. So the Beachka part is the best execution you can do, and actually you get that. So I love to write, and I actually, once I write my script, I edit it also. Before shooting, one last edit, where there's too much dialogue, or why do I need this scene? I think I can avoid this scene and so on. I actually do my editing before the shooting, and then after that there is the real edit. But for me it's one process.
So one of I mean, there's a question I got. There's actually a hilarious question. I'm just laughing at this for 5 minutes in a bit. So actually, someone asking you that what is the I mean, what is the situation when you just met with Priyanka Chopra for this production purpose? I mean, like you have pitched it your idea, or that how she on board on your project in Firebrand. I mean, Firebrand is a
That's very
Marathi movie.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. You see, they were making regional films.
Okay.
They did not want to make Hindi films. I had a Hindi project, and I had a Hindi English project, and I had, whatever. But they were more interested in a regional film, and this was a regional film
Yes,
because I
Marathi.
thought yes, Firebrand was more it would bring out the essence, more like a Marathi film. It would be better for me. But they had made Bhojpuri films. They had made other Marathi film before that. They made some other regional language films. So, but the thing is, now she was in the US and she was shooting whatever she was doing. She was very busy. So I sent my presentation, the storyboard, and not storyboard, I mean mood board, and
Yes.
what the presentation and synopsis and everything details. And then they came back and said, ma'am is very busy. I also sent the script. They said she doesn't have time to read the script, but she has to travel long distances for her shooting. Can you record it and give it? So I said, for the first time now, I've got to record my screenplay. So
Wow.
I went into a studio and it took 3 hours to record it. Mostly, I would read through it with expression and all that. And somehow after 3 hours, that thing was ready. So I sent the pen drive and she heard it. And of course, the visuals and all were there on that mood board and whatever. And then she said, okay. And that was on.
Wow.
And I met her much later. Of course, I met her before the shoot,
Okay.
then in between once, and once after the shoot. I met her 3 times only. So they had their own office. Her mother was there.
Okay. So one question from the actor perspective, like you are a director and many of us are directors. So what is the, I mean, there's a basic question for actors that how to approach them, because someone is very much irritated for the so and so inboxes and like that. So is there any streamlined process for the actor's perspective that any one actor or actress can submit his or her resume, or like I mean, what I can say, there's a I mean, any kind of a visuals. So, what is the actually streamlined process for the Bollywood purpose, or I mean, for the any kind of a regional film industry? What is the standard?
See, for, yeah, for Bollywood, it always invariably goes through casting director.
Okay, so through casting
For
data is the
Bollywood.
Bollywood. Okay,
Yes,
Hollywood.
for
You
Bollywood,
said okay.
meaning all these big projects, whether it's a small character, big character, except the major stars, they all go through. And casting director become a very powerful person now. Earlier, he was not. Earlier, we used to do our own casting. We used to spread the word and meet theater actors and the upcoming actors. And we used to take auditions, because I have taken so many auditions myself. Even recently, when you even Firebrand, after the casting director suggested, I took auditions on my own. But and one of the things is, you get them to perform. You give them a scene and get them to perform, or you ask them to do a scene of their own, and you may do another scene of yours. I mean, this is how I like to work. And then I actually discuss with the group, and very often we have the entire group there, and people keep performing. And every time I give them some feedback, so for them it's like a little workshop. So they say, ma'am, we got so much value out of this, we learn from each other. So I thought that was a very good process. So sometime back when I was doing, that's what I did. But when I was doing for Firebrand, I changed my method, because they had already selected this like many judges and people. Then somebody came for this character, that character, so I'd give them the scene and see if they can do it. Like, one funny thing was, there was this character who came for, I think, do something like that. I looked at him and I said, I think I'd like him to be the rapist. So my assistant said, rapist? He said, I said, have that poor man was really like, I didn't know. I said, do you drink? Have you been drinking? He said, not really. I said, he said, I used to act in plays. I know how to do. Can you show me how a drunkard might walk? And he just waited and did, and it looked very authentic to me. It looked right. I said, yeah, I think I'd like you to be the rapist. So poor man was so scared, because on the shooting, he was so scared. He didn't know. I said, sorry, madam, sorry, madam. He was telling the artist also, sorry, 100 times. Then there was a scene where he's taking off his shirt or something like that. So, and his shirt was off now. I mean, we were taking another shot, and somebody forgot to tell him that, okay, you can wear your shirt now. So he was standing like that, with his hands like that. So I felt so bad. But his looks like that. And everybody said, what a good choice. So a director sees beyond what, so that's what we have to see. You look beyond and see what is that one characteristic where you don't have to say that, but he looks that. So
Okay.
like that.
So it's a funny words actually is coming on. So actually, the most streamlined process for the actors, like the pitch to the casting directors, like So there is no, I mean, direct process. I'm just repeating ma'am's words. There is no direct process like the previous one. So right now, we are coming on to the kind of a last two questions. So another question is on the board that how to distribute an independent film, because most of the lab participants are the independent filmmaker, but like from from the so much kind of a I mean, what I can say, the studio perspective. So they are actually made their own films or own production houses, small production house in mostly in Kolkata and in Tollywood section, which we call. So what is your advice that as an independent filmmaker, how to distribute the movie, because now the distribution is so much expensive as of now. So how they can deal with this?
I think you have to keep contacting, people. You have to contact people and take time for them, show them the film. And it's a difficult process. It's not an easy process. But what has made it easier today is if it's gone to some film festivals and won some awards, then people have already would have heard about it, and those laurel wreaths definitely help. Of course, now people have woken up to the fact that it might be a small local film festival. So now every 100 miles there might be a film festival. So now people just put, you don't know whether it's a Canvas Festival or a San Francisco Film or a Busan Film Festival. You just see those logos. There are so many of them, and they might be very local festivals and may not be much of anything, but it still makes people feel good, and it seems to carry weight that some people have liked your film, or some people you have participated in some festival. But if you participate in the bigger festivals, certainly, then the many more doors open. So that's a very good way of approaching actually. If you made an indie film, you can send it to a festival. If you win an award, that's very good. Even if you don't, just participating will open many doors.
So right now we are actually kind of in a last question that many people asking that the the because web series is running out. I mean, right now is a very hot cake. So people are facing some issues like in what I call it, in a conventional cinema perspective. I mean, the screenplay is like a bit changed from the web series perspective. So what is your advice that if anyone wants to direct or produce or want to just onboard in a web series kind of purpose, then what will be your advice that as a director, producer, and editor you are? So, what is your advice to these lab participants that how can deal with them? I mean, how can deal with this? Is there any specific criteria for the web series, or like as a conventional cinema's perspective?
No, I think web series, it's understood and accepted that they have to do what conventional cinema cannot do. Now, conventional cinema does not go beyond a point. They do not have blatant sex. They do not have blatant abusive language and all of that. There's a limit to that in the regular theaters. So if you have content like that, definitely people look at it. I mean, definitely sex sells, violence sells. There's more violence on OTT, more sex on OTT, and more abusive language on OTT. So you know that. And but the thing is, what has happened is the OTT thing took off suddenly, and there were a lot of people doing a lot of things. But now what Netflix and Amazon both have realized, as I've heard, is the standard has fallen, because Tom, Dick, and Harry has rushed in and they took them all up. But they have found that the standard has fallen, and now they want to raise the bar. So the thing is, whichever film you're making, you have to make a standard product. Now, what has happened for the theaters? Now they are not buying the old formula stuff either. That's not working, because major stars have flopped and their films have collapsed. So now they are also looking for a different kind of story, not necessarily so much violence, sex, or anything, but they want a different take on a story, different take on a love story, different take on a murder mystery, different take on, something fresh. So right now, what is the USP would be something innovative, something original, something fresh. So if you can come up with that, I think you've got a good chance in both places.
So I think this is my personal question that many of I mean who are the participants were mostly from various backgrounds, and some of them I think they don't know the how the process to enroll with FTIA and any film schools, like you are associated with the Whistling Wood also. So you just tell in a few words that how, I mean, you just guide them that how they can pursue their film career if they want to pursue that how they can pursue their film career in a film school.
Yeah, it's very, very, I believe personally, film education is very, very important. And you must get trained. Without training today, we don't want to deal with anyone who's not had training. Earlier, we used to take people who are untrained and we used to train them on the thing, but it's a long haul. It's very difficult. Now, even actors, we want some training. assistants and all, definitely. So to get into a film school, it's very difficult. Now there are thousands of applications coming to FTI and SRFTI, though they have a joint entrance and all that.
Yes.
The thing is, so you must know something about film. So what is the best news is all these short courses. I find that these short courses prepare you up to a point where at least your entry point is guaranteed. Guaranteed meaning, if you do well, if you practice, if you work, then you can. So I've done a few short courses for FTI under Skift and all that, but in every course at least one or two people have gotten into FTI. So it's not only my course, they have done some 3-4 courses, one of them would be mine or something, but 100% there's a chance, because you are now getting trained. And I think that's very, very important. So I would advise people, if you want to get into FTI, then do the short courses until you get in. And if you don't get in, do enough short courses, or do at the good person. There are a lot of short courses people are doing, but do the really good ones, the reliable ones, where you're going to really learn something, and then you start making a short film. Today, Diganta, the entrance to a feature film is your short film. If
Exactly.
people know you can do a good short film, it opens the door, because people would rather take a newcomer, who has done some work, who's showing some promise, rather than take a known filmmaker, because you have to pay them. Now, if they take me, they'll have to pay me. Now, if they take a newcomer, they don't have to pay them because they're giving them a break.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
and if he makes mistake, they will get it corrected. It's not like the heavens are falling.
yeah, yeah.
So they will do the corrections, they will do the reshoot, they will do the re-edit, and they will put it up. But so they prefer. So today, youngsters stand a very good chance. Very
So
good chance.
yeah, yeah. So thanks, ma'am, for this half an hour. We wanted so much. Like a day kind of a workshop, if possible, but this is not possible as of now. But yeah, thanks for your. I
Yeah,
know
we'll
it's a
do that
busy.
another day. We'll do that
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
someday. Right?
yeah, yeah.
Call me,
Sure,
I'll
ma'am.
come.
Yeah, sure, ma'am. And hope we will, meet in FTI campus. Because as of now, we are all
Yes.
are in initials, because we have passed out the FTI, the courses, but still we are waiting for the FTI convocation and to see all of you. Yeah. So thanks, ma'am, and welcome from the Ritu Rangam Film Festival and
And yes,
Labs.
all the best for your Ritu Rangam Film Festival. All the best. Celebrate cinema.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.